What's up, everybody? Jesse Ziegler from UTV News, and we are here in Montana, my home state, to bring you another edition of the Honda Talon Real World Ride Series. This year, we brought the brand new Honda Talon 1000X Fox Live Valve Edition. All right, let's do a little quick recap of Honda Talon features and benefits. It all starts with the engine. As most side-by-side and UTV owners will agree, power is everything. Honda comes into it with a very capable 999cc twin-cylinder engine. It's something we've seen across multiple vehicles in their lineup, including an Africa Twin adventure motorcycle. Here, it's the same as last year. We expect the same performance, very easy to drive character. Up next, connected to that, is the really unique, proprietary even, Honda Dct Transmission. It's a fully automatic dual clutch transmission. There's two clutches, one controls gears 1, 3, and 5. The other clutch controls gears 2, 4, and 6. So the 6-speed transmission is always engaging or pre-engaging the next gear so that it's ready to bang into as soon as the RPMs determine it's necessary to go up a gear. The cool thing about it, it comes in 3 different modes really. There's 2 automatic modes. There's a automatic normal mode, then a sport mode, but you can also put it in full manual mode, and all of the modes are controllable by the paddle shifter. So you can override the automatic transmission and go up and down a gear while you're driving in automatic mode, but in standard manual transmission mode, man, you just have full control. Last cool feature on the Honda Talon transmission DCT settings is you can control the mode that the automatic transmission shifts in. There's a sport mode that allows the RPMs to climb higher between shifts, and then the shifts are faster, meaning the electronic mechanism that actually shifts the gears actuates quicker and harder. For 2021, Honda has added a few features to the lineup. The first one is a very cool thing called launch mode. It allows you to build sort of like a motocross style start program into the vehicle where you can pull back both the shifters just like you're holding the clutch in on a dirt bike, slam the throttle and just dump it all at once. Let's cover the differences between the X and the R edition really quickly. First of all, the most obvious thing that you're gonna notice on the X and the R is the wheelbase and the width are different. The X comes in with a wheelbase of 87.6 inches. The R, the longer, more high-speed oriented model, has a wheelbase of 92.7 inches. So there's quite a bit of difference in the length of the wheelbase of the models. Interestingly enough, the chassis is the same length overall. So really what you're doing is you're extending that wheelbase with the longer travel suspension on the R. The X tightens up the wheelbase with shorter travel suspension and also the narrower stance. And it just really is intended to provide a much more active and more precise steering and handling environment. 1000X is a 64-inch wide model. It's a nice size to fit on 2-track trails. It's a really good cruiser for the tighter trails and slower speed stuff, but it also gets up and goes in the open terrain really well too. So we're looking forward to testing that out. Suspension travel is going to be like the most sort of impressive difference and sort of like the defining factor for a lot of people, but there's a couple interesting facts in the suspension travel that you should probably pay attention to before you make a decision, just based on how many inches the shocks can move. The front of the 1000X model, you get 14.4 inches of suspension travel, and on the R, it goes all the way up to 17.7 inches. So a very large difference in suspension travel in the front. Same goes for the rear. 15 inches on the X for the rear suspension travel, and the R boasts 20.1 inches of suspension travel. If you see that on paper or you read about that or you hear that, you automatically think the R is going to be a taller, bigger vehicle with more suspension travel. It's not. They're almost exactly the same height at the top of the roof. What that means is the R is designed for blitzing across roofs and hitting things fast and having the suspension drop more. Finally, Honda has brought Fox Live Valve suspension to every model in their lineup as an option this year. We're really excited to explain the Fox Live Valve system. We're really excited to show you what it can do because our initial drives in this thing are just insanely impressive. Literally, the side-by-side I'm most excited to ride in my home state. It's tuned for tighter trails, it's tuned for more maneuverability, and when I saw this thing get launched with Live Valve earlier this year, I thought, you know what, I gotta get home, I gotta get back to Montana, get into some tighter terrain, and really see what this thing can do. And so what I did is I called my buddy Brian. This is Brian. He's got off-road experience coming out of his ears. He's an active guy in the local area, so he's got knowledge of what makes vehicles work and work well in the Rocky Mountains and in this terrain. We're actually at the Marks Ranch outside of Clancy, Montana. It's about 6,800 acres of private property to really give this thing like the run through its paces it deserves. And the big benefit is snobby journalists like myself, cool Montanans like Brian, we're gonna tell you what we think about it, but then we're gonna bring in a really cool couple. And they're gonna take this thing on a real adventure from a cabin base camp that they have, just like we imagine the perfect use case of this vehicle. Why are we in Montana? It makes a lot of sense for this vehicle. It makes a lot of sense for me because I love it here. Montana's perfect place for the X.
All right, Jesse, give me a rundown on all these switches.
Yeah, it's a little intimidating when you get in here, but I'll show you what's up. So first thing you're gonna notice when you get in a Honda Talon is they're super easy to get into. There's tons of room, and if you try the driver's side, which I may or may not let you drive it, there's a lot of room between you and the steering wheel. Plus, the seats adjust, so you can move the seat up just like a car, just like in your van or whatever weird car you own now, your Ranchero, whatever you're driving now. And it just makes sense. The thing about Hondas, whether you're riding a dirt bike or a lawnmower or a side-by-side or an ATV, like as soon as you sit in them, your hands and your feet kind of go in the right spot. Like, it's comfortable.
Yeah, it's really comfortable.
First thing I always notice. The doors are pretty cool. They're kind of suicide style. A lot of them are like that. And then they have these fancy nets that secure you in. Boom, and you're good to go, ready to rock. Buttons, there's a lot of buttons. The first thing you're gonna notice are the super cool paddle shifters, and those are what I was telling you about. So these can override all transmission settings if you wanna bump up or down a gear to a limit. They're not gonna let you smoke the clutches. And then there's a manual mode where you can basically rally race this thing around just like a rally race car. It's really cool. You can change the mode of the transmission from sport, automatic, and manual. So the automatic mode has sport and a standard mode, which is really cool. It just makes it, shift harder and faster. Second switch in the center dash. This is the launch mode I was telling you about. Literally just like the old motocross days. Pull the clutches in, hold the brake, let go of the brakes, slam the throttle, and the clutches say disengage. Drop the clutch, and the thing just rips. We're gonna play with that today for sure. Ironically, on the launch mode button is a mode that stops the vehicle, like anti-launch mode. If you're going up a technical hill climb, and you start losing traction, you need to make an adjustment, and you hit the brakes and you stop, it can be kind of herky-jerky on side-by-sides to just quickly switch and get the gas going and start spinning your tires and try to go again. So with the hill hold button, you hold that, and what it does is it locks the brake for like 3 seconds before you hit the gas pedal, and it'll disengage as it goes. Next, switch over two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. They think intelligent four-wheel drive when you think of that. Two-wheel drive mode, rear wheels, lock differential, blasting down the two-track and everything. Four-wheel drive turns it into an all-wheel drive. Think of like a Subaru in the snow. It's gonna measure wheel speed on all the corners. It's gonna measure vehicle speed, and it's gonna adjust whichever wheel is slipping. It's gonna apply brake pressure and move the power to the wheel that's not slipping. The demos that I can show you on this are insane. When we're doing rock climbing and stuff, you won't even know it's working, and it will have 100% traction at all times. The really cool thing about that is in settings where you don't think you want four-wheel drive. In Arizona, we discovered that this thing would slot car around flat turns with four-wheel drive. It became like the most fun way to drive it. So that's our center dash cluster, full on like Millennium Falcon Star Wars stuff there. There's some buttons over here on this side that you can't see from your seat, but this really has to do with the Fox live valve suspension. Obviously, Fox live valve has multiple sensors throughout the vehicle. The shocks have electronically adjusted compression adjusters on them. Those are controlled by a computer brain that tells it what to do every 5 milliseconds based on sensors in the transmission, based on sensors in the steering system. So if you're turning, it knows every 5 milliseconds how to adjust the pitch and the yaw. There's also like a 5-axis IMU device in here that will measure G-forces, pitch, yaw, roll, and all those things independently. And it combines all those sensors into one digital brain, and it tells each shock what to do every 5 milliseconds. it's going to be the coolest thing probably that we experience on this. More ergonomic stuff, you know, the steering wheel is adjustable up and down. Your passenger bar handle, you can just lift it up if you have longer short arms, or if you're, you know, even if you bring your kids in here and they can barely reach, it gives them a nice place to like grab securely for when you're getting rowdy. The seats are like 4-point, 5-point harness ready. They come with seat belts. It's got cup holders. There's also a high and a low gearbox, so you can go really low speed rock crawling with a totally sub transmission that basically extends your 6 gears into a lower set of 6 gears. So really you have 12 speeds available for all the adventures you could possibly take this thing on. That's really the cockpit in a nutshell, man. It's a very cool vehicle.
Excellent. Let's go test this thing out. That's insane, man. It is just absolutely insane how quick it goes down and how under control it feels.
Oh, that was awesome. It's so smooth.
All right, we just got done ripping the Honda Talon 1000X Fox Live Valve Edition up at the Marks Ranch. It's a precursor to giving Cody and Christie Marks the vehicle to see what they think. You're gonna get more of that tomorrow. But my boy Brian here was with me all day. I gave him a little joyride. I showed him the features and benefits of the vehicle, but I really want to get his take on it from an off-road perspective. Another local who rides these kind of trails a lot on his dirt bike, and you know, plenty of off-road experience. So straight up from me, power was great. Suspension was phenomenal. Like I got a lot of talk about on the Fox Live Valve. Ergonomics were awesome. Transmission was great. But from your seat, I even let you drive. I didn't say I was going to, but I let you drive a little bit, past my better judgment. But what did you think? What did you think of this thing straight off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, right off the top of my head, Jesse, this thing is a blast. It's super fun to drive. It's really comfortable. I mean, I think Honda kind of went just above and beyond just in the right when you get into it, you feel like you're just very comfortable, and you're in a very aggressive position as far as just the stance goes. So you feel like you're in control of a lot of things. You know, the Fox Live Valve suspension on this is just phenomenal. I think when, you know, we took it over some diverse terrain today, and I believe that as we were kind of cruising, you could kind of feel it respond, but it really where you start to feel that live valve is when you get on the gas a little bit. And that's when it comes alive.
Definitely. It definitely likes some speed. I think that just like, you know, the sensors start working. Like it's reading data every 5 milliseconds. So the more data you can get it, the better it's going to be at processing the ground underneath you and giving you the best ride possible. So it makes sense. Going faster makes it work better. Man, it really came alive a few times out there for me.
Yeah, and I think as we look at it, you know, tomorrow with Christie and Cody Marks, I think it'll be really interesting to see what their take is. Really from with that ranch experience, you know, knowing that they've had some of the more traditional side-by-side experience, and really seeing how this thing works when it comes down to not just performance, but also just kind of leisure. You know, hey, we want to get in this thing, we want to go to the cabin, we want to go to the lake. And I think that that's going to be a big determining factor when it comes down to how somebody purchases a side-by-side, honestly. So I think overall, where I found myself to be most impressed is especially on those downhill corners when you would really feel that live valve playing out the front end on the vehicle. And so I'm really curious to see what Christie and Cody think of that, because traditionally in a side-by-side, you get a lot of that diving as soon as you're
come over
going
the
downhill,
front,
and you
you're
kind of
pushing into the
a little
steering
bit of
wheel.
oversteer, and so this, I just felt like that wasn't an issue at all, which really keeps you in control the whole time. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Fox Live Valve a lot because like it stood out the most. Obviously, the Dct Transmission works flawless and actually kind of accentuates the benefit of the live valve suspension because it has real engine braking. So you can really like just hit the brake, let the engine braking do its thing downhill, but the suspension picks the front end back up. So you're in ultimate control going down those hills. That was the most impressive aspect of, I didn't know what the thing was gonna do, and I just came in hot over a couple of downhills, and it just planes out like you said. The rear end sinks a little bit, the front end comes up, and then the engine braking starts happening, and you just total control down there. You tap the gas and it livens it back up again for the next corner.
Yeah,
really cool.
You really get a sense that all these components are working together.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
that's really what, you know, from the transmission and the suspension, and you know, I'm excited to throw some bigger tires on this thing and really kind of see what some of the aftermarket performance parts do. But I think overall, out of the box, this thing just really impressed me. And I'm definitely excited to see what we can get it, you know, maybe get in some trouble tomorrow with it, but it should be fun.
Yeah, you hit it nail on the head. I think the only thing that it doesn't totally turn me on every time I look at this thing is the wheel size and tire size. I know it's engineered and it works great that way, but I've also driven these things with all 4 square, all the same tire size, and we got a brand new set of wheels and tires from System 3 Racing. They have the right offset for the Honda Talon because it's actually got a unique offset between the front and rear wheels, so it should square everything up perfectly. It'll handle just as this vehicle is designed to handle, but with a symmetrical tire size all the way around. And they're a perfect tire for out here. They're aggressive knobbies for grabbing rocks. They got good spacing on it for like springtime wheeling out here. You're gonna get a lot of mud. So I'm excited to try that. I'm really excited to see what Cody and Christie think. I think Cody and Christie are the perfect case study for real world rides because, like you said, they're not racing side-by-sides up here in Montana, especially on their own property. They're just using them to go out and have fun. But on the other hand, Cody's an accomplished motorcycle racer. The whole family rides dirt bikes.
Yeah, they really are a group of off-road enthusiasts.
Right.
So I think, you know, for them to be able to marry the utility version of this as well as the performance.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, throw a cooler in the back. Let's go up to the cabin. Maybe let's go up to the lake and do some fishing.
Yep.
I think they're going to have a really good time.
It's going to be a great test of this vehicle. We're going to introduce you guys to Cody and Christie tomorrow. And man, we're just going to have more fun in the Talon 1000X Fox Live Valve.